UFOs and UAPs. I'm not here to scare you. I'm never here to push a conspiracy. I am a skeptic, so I think you can trust me, doubly so. But some of this video, I'm going to say, is pretty loopy. So I don't like the fear mongering stuff. Any day now, Trump's going to release all of the UAP and drone stuff that the government has, and I welcome that. We're going to go into why the government covers this stuff up in the first place. Welcome to the Doug TenNapel channel. This is where the happy patriots are, and I always promise you guys, any update that I get, I'm going to pass on to you. Like you, I've been raised on UFOs and government conspiracies and all that stuff. So it is part of our culture to talk about this stuff. And when massive drones are all over New Jersey, like we saw for the last 2 months, and then they magically go away, and there's all these other rumors going around, you know, it's present in all of our minds. I'm going to walk you through some stuff. Some of this stuff I'm very skeptical of, but it also includes quotes from Matt Gaetz, Tim Burchett. We're going to go into Mike Pompeo and John Stossel on the Kennedy assassination. Just my big warning is I'm not here to scare you, no matter what we find out. My faith is in God. We already know the government lies to us, so any kind of cover up. I don't fear even the existence of aliens. I don't personally believe in them, but everyone's like, oh, your faith would be shaken if they ever found out there were aliens. No, it wouldn't. It just wouldn't. I don't care. I'm just saying, if there's aliens, they could be demons, they could be interdimensional beings. So the whole fear thing of what this stuff will shake out, that threat doesn't work on me. Let's watch this together.
I've recently been watching and spent some time with the videographer out of Long Island. I mean, he has orbs, these glowing orbs of light on camera that as you watch them right before your eyes, they seem to transform into a mechanical drone. So I've actually watched it myself where these orbs are glowing balls of light, different blinking lights all over the place. And as it gets closer to you, you actually see it transform into a drone. Whether it's a drone from the beginning and it's being obstructed by bright light, I can't tell you, but it is cause for concern. We have looked at flight tracker data. We don't see any airplanes in the skies. These things are absolutely some kind of phenomenon that's happening just over our homes.
To answer this guy first. So the orbs, orbs are all over the news. Now it's orbs. Now it's an egg shape. Egg. We're going to actually show you video footage of these orbs. This is a slightly different phenomenon. What he's talking about is that they start as orbs, then turn into drones. That's not true. I've seen that video footage. They know this. That's what bugs me is we know this. You've all seen this effect in your own camera. It's almost like if you squint your eyes and your eyelash goes over your eyes, and if you look at a very distant light, it will blur and blow up, and it looks like an orb. That's what they're showing on camera too. On camera, these are clearly lights out of focus, and that's just how the chip in most of your cameras work. A light at a distance that is out of focus, it appears to just be a glowing ball out of focus. This is a photography effect going all the way back to the beginning of photography. Then when you sharpen the focus on it, boom, all the lights separate and it looks like a drone. I don't buy this initial talk. And again, until I see footage that shows me different, like a clear in-focus orb, and then that in-focus orb turns into an in-focus drone. That does not exist.
That's so important to note that, you are looking at flight tracker data and not seeing records of this. So, Mayor, are you confident that we will start to get some definitive answers, whatever those answers may be?
I believe we're going to get answers. Calls for speculation as to whether they're going to be definitive answers or not. Yeah. I do take the president at his word. I do think that we are going to get some kind of disclosure. You know, I've listened to government speak. I've listened to our state, New Jersey, speak. I've listened to the federal government speak, and they've been very specific at times. They've said things like it's not our DOD, it's not our Homeland Security. And I've learned, in being in this business for a while, that when government speaks very specifically, listen to what they're not saying. So when they say it's not DOD and it's not Homeland Security, they're not saying it's not a private contractor. They're not saying a lot of different things there. So they're giving themselves some plausible deniability when they say things specifically like that. However, I'm still fairly sure that this is probably going to be our government assets, as the president said when he was president-elect, and even now. If it was a foreign adversary, I'm almost certain with $1 trillion military budget, we'd be able to take these things out of the sky. The fact they're not coming out of the sky and we keep seeing them, I truly believe that we will find out whether it's sooner or later, that it is probably some kind of government asset.
I do agree with that statement because that's totally plausible, right? It's not DOD, it's not Department of Defense. When the government says that, it could be another area of our government putting those things up in the air. Totally agree. And I believe that's how our government, it lies by telling the truth. It's like, says this, oh, this is not Department of Defense, or this is not Air Force. Well, probably true, but it could be, experimental, whatever, science division, and it could be ours. If it was a foreign asset, we don't know what it is. It's from China, it's from Iran, and it's all over our bases and nuclear facilities. The idea that, like he said, we have $1 trillion government, we could shoot one down. One. Okay, out of all those thousands that we've seen, one would be knocked down and we would know what it is. So that would explain why they're a little vague on the answer. They don't want the whole world to find out what we're doing. It could be, Trump's talked about building an Iron Dome for America, a giant wall like Israel has that could shoot down nukes and stuff. That could be drone oriented. They could be running experiments of our own deep whatever. Trump's just saying, I'm going to release the information to the public. That may not be beneficial. We have a quote on that too, on why you may not want this stuff to go out to the public. Personally, I believe it's always safer when things are transparent, because then you don't have Americans fearing their own government. Okay, now I got to admit, this one kind of spooked me a little bit. Not that I believed it or anything, but it really, this is Matt Gaetz and Tim Burchett on giant 100-foot long objects going through our seas or water. This one is, hold on to your hats, folks.
It does seem a lot of these UAP sightings are over water. Do you think there's anything to that and the basing concepts that you were laying out?
I do. When I've talked to people, or their sonar people, and the way they hide it from us, Matt, they say it's because our sonar, I believe, I haven't been briefed on this, I'm just from what I'm putting together, but we have some secret sonar. But what's so crazy about it, like we're hiding it from the Chinese. Well, heck, Matt, the Chinese sold us the components for it. They know it's in our sonar probably better than we do. But when they tell me something's moving at hundreds of miles an hour underwater, and our capabilities are, I don't think we have anything that'll do 40 miles an hour. And these things, this one was large as a football field underwater.
Large as a football field, that's 300 feet long, underwater, going 100 miles an hour. Now, this is secondhand coming to Rep. Burchett, okay? So he hasn't seen photo evidence or video evidence of it, of the sonar, what they're picking up. He's only saying, well, if it was ours, the Chinese will have sold us the components. They know what we have. So now he's going to imply that it comes from another world, which I just totally disagree with that. But anytime I'm giving my opinion, you're welcome to give your opinion. It doesn't have to match mine. I'm not going to mock you or make fun of you. And you don't have to mock me and say, oh, Doug, you're just a sellout trying to cover up for the blah, blah. No, it's not true. I'm giving you my opinion. You give me yours in the comments below.
And this was a documented case. And I have an admiral telling me this stuff. And it just, to me,
So that's where you think the bases are, is underwater then, because of those reports?
I do. I just think traveling light years, I think it happens. I think it's possible. The vastness of God's great universe. I mean, light years, the light from those stars that we see at night left there before the time of Christ. I mean, the vastness of God's great universe is unreal.
The vastness of God's great universe. I'm going to give you guys an argument. I'm telling you, the size of the universe has nothing to do with if there's life from other worlds or not. It is a giant, expansive universe. The light years, some say that the stars, by the time the light reaches us, they were snuffed out billions of years ago. I don't believe technically in that kind of old age of the universe. I think things can appear to be old without being that old. That is, if God wanted us to see stars, and you have a star that's 100 billion light years away, you'd never reach, it would never reach the Earth until 100 billion years pass. That's how long it would take for the light to reach us. So you're looking at a star that's 100 billion light years away. Then science goes, well, if that light is extended 100 billion years, therefore the Earth was around for 100 billion years, or that star was around for 100 billion years for its light to come to us. And that's not true. God could build a light that had a full extended ray 100 billion light years away that already reached us from the very beginning of that star's creation. You see what I mean? You'd go, well, but that seems deceptive, that God would make a star that looked old when it was really young. That is, no, it was just complete. It was an adult, complete ray that reached us 100 billion light years. Does God do that? Well, when he made Adam, he didn't make Adam a baby. That is, when he breathed into the ground or whatever, and Adam came out, Adam was an adult male. He might have looked like he was about 17 years old or 20 years old, even though he was only 24 years old. So God can make something look older or be older, function older than it actually is. So a scientist would look at Adam, right, 24 hours into his life, and he would say, oh, he looks like a 20-year-old man. Therefore, Adam has been here for 20 years. No, Adam was only there for 24 hours at that age. Same thing with the stars. That's kind of how I think of all this stuff is science is not in conflict with God's word because God's word is holy and true. And then science must defer to the scriptures. And I'm only giving you hypotheticals here, right? I'm not a scholar. I'm not a scientist. I'm only showing you how. I think Burchett here could be making a real mistake by looking at the size of the universe and saying, these billions of year old stars and all that, and therefore interdimensional beings or beings from another planet could exist. I don't believe that by necessity. I believe it's possible. I don't believe it's true by necessity.
And I'm not worried about them harming me. I mean, if with that capabilities, they would have barbecued us a long time ago.
It is true that if a being did exist and they're running 300-foot long vehicles underwater going 100 miles an hour, and they're that far advanced from us, and they wanted to harm us, that's true. Hypothetically, they could have harmed us, and they would they would be a threat, okay? Or they would have harmed us already. So if they haven't already, and by the way, logic would tell you that a being like that, if they've been here for hundreds of years or thousands of years, as people have speculated, then it would always be better for them to take us out early before we gain more technology and power than wait longer. So the fact that they haven't done it yet means they probably would not do it. However, I don't believe in any of this alien stuff. I think there's all kinds of other explanations besides it being alien, including they could be demons, which I also don't entirely believe, or I'm not even proposing that as an absolute fact. Next up. This is the big new spooky video going around on the internet. It's called the orb or the egg. This is just leaked footage. Now, this is night vision goggles, so it will do things like blur the ground. That's hard ground, that green whole background there. What you're looking at is a rope going down from the lower right down to that egg-shaped white orb that has a harness around it. Because what they do is they send a copter in, they put the harness under it, they put it around it, and then they fly that thing out when they find these. It might be in the mountain range, it might be in Antarctica and all that. Let's just watch and then I'll give you my commentary. But this is the night vision view from a helicopter of what they're saying is around a 20-foot egg shape. But I'm going to make my commentary on this. I don't believe this is a UFO or a UAP at all.
Let's slow this down to take a closer look. That's an egg-shaped UAP suspended from a 150-foot long line.
That's a 100-foot long line. I'm going to tell you another thing. That could be misinformation even in saying it's egg-shaped. I know that egg shape is going all over the internet now. These things are egg-shaped, egg-shaped, egg-shaped. You know what happens when you take a weather balloon, a 20-foot weather balloon, and you put a harness around the middle of it and suspend its weight by that middle harness? It squishes in the middle and looks more like an oval or an egg. So I'm only saying, does this thing act like a weather balloon? Watch it closely. It acts exactly like a downed weather balloon. It floats.
We're told the craft is about 20 feet long, the egg suspended in a cradle. And look how careful the pilot is as they bring their precious cargo into land. Let's freeze frame here to look at one of the clearest images of a UAP ever taken. This is no blurry light in a distant sky. The source of the footage putting themselves at incredible risk to record this UAP retrieval. Look at how perfectly smooth the craft is. No markings at all, and no visible means of propulsion or way to see inside.
It's a weather balloon. This is News Nation. I think this is really irresponsible. That's why it would be. Why do you think it doesn't have markings or signs of propulsion? This is BS to me, and this is fear mongering. I'm gonna tell you why I believe it's a weather balloon. Watch this. So this is the footage of it. When it lands at full speed, I'm gonna show you when they put it on the ground. It floats like a freaking balloon, like it's full of air. Watch it. When it lands, it continues to float like it's 20 feet long. It has no mass inside. Watch this. We're going to put it down, and it floats along just like a weather balloon under a helicopter's wind blowing. If you really believe in UFOs, you're going to go, Doug, no, these things have anti-gravity abilities, anti-gravity. An anti-gravity device and an alien device might look like that, but you know what else looks like that? A weather balloon. Okay, this is a video, the slightly different subject, but in the same genre. This is Mike Pompeo telling Stossel about the JFK assassination, about why he did not want the stuff released. And earlier on a Sean Hannity show, Trump is talking to Hannity saying, he wanted to release the whole thing, and Pompeo said, no, don't. So here's Pompeo on John Stossel.
Why'd you fight to keep the JFK files secret?
Because I was trying to keep Americans safe. And by the way, don't paint with too broad a brush. 99.6% of the JFK files are public today.
But it was 60 years ago.
John, not everything was 60 years ago. And I don't want to spend a lot of time walking through this, but suffice it to say, the definition of a document covered by this statute that you're referring to, it's a little bit wonky, but suffice it to say, if Congress holds a hearing tomorrow on the Kennedy assassination, the documents generated tomorrow will be part of those files. Those would be tomorrow, they'd be 60 seconds old, not 60 years old. And last thing I'll say is there are things that happened 60 years ago that are still important to keep in the vault. There are lots of things that happened that long ago that still are appropriate not to release. Think of names and addresses and families. And by the way, there's also no value in them. These don't hold the dark secrets that everybody wants to just hold up as the bogeyman. I saw the UFO files too. We've got bigger problems. In America, lots of bigger problems. Just because something is kept secret, why not go to the darkest corners?
I agree with Pompeo on that. And look, I get it. MAGA and the right hates Pompeo. And Trump just now stripped his security clearance because it was costing like $20 million or whatever it is a year. So he has removed his security clearance. But what Pompeo here is saying is totally reasonable. I don't have to trust him. I still think maybe they should release the JFK files, but he's giving you the reason why. It's not to cover up a dark secret like that our CIA assassinated him, okay? He's giving you a reasonable explanation, which is that, there's names and addresses of people, let's say, who were in his security duty that would be released to the public that are still alive, and including the people when they reinvestigated this thing. And Pompeo says he has seen all of the UFO stuff. And he goes, big deal. It's not going to be, just because the government doesn't want to release it doesn't mean that they have photos and videos of all these egg-shaped UAPs with all the technology that we've reverse engineered and 5 crashed astronaut alien bodies. I would really warn anyone from filling in the lack of evidence with the presence of all that spook stuff, because that spook stuff would never have come out in public if it were true. So just the fact that those stories have floated out there, and we've already speculated the very worst, right? That there's aliens crash and the government has photos and videos and blah, blah. That wouldn't bother me if they released that footage. It wouldn't scare me anymore because we've already speculated that for 40 years. Same thing with the assassination of JFK being the CIA. If the CIA did it and the government's been lying about all this time, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be scared because so many people have already believed these things for so long that I don't think the fear is there. And I believe Pompeo here. I'd love to hear what you guys think, of course. Is there something spooky the government is covering up? Or could it be legit that they're just trying to protect, say, some of our practices of spying? They don't want the wrong people, the public to know about it. Not the American public, but China, Russia, and Iran to know our practices and processes. I'm torn on this. I do think all the data should go out to the public. In general, I don't fear the truth getting out. I'm Doug in exile.